Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the European crossover webinar. And just want to do a sound check to make sure everybody can hear me. Bear with me one moment. Um, and bear with me. Just please say if you can hear audio. Okay, and once again, welcome to the European crossover webinar. Now, we have seen the dollar going in pared back, and actually the euro reached an area that was what I considered a little bit of an extreme, which is where it's at right now. So once again, I want to make sure that don't want to keep on blabbing if nobody can hear me. Bear with me. Okay, great, loud and clear. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate that. Wanted to make sure that I did get a little audio error message. I wanted to make sure that there was no problems. So take a look as far as data. We'd mentioned this yesterday. We have Italian industrial output, and then really nothing in the States. Look, all the way down here, we do have NFIB business optimism, some Mexican inflation, and then there's nothing here. Well, there is, I guess, Joel's job openings at 10 a.m. Eastern, and that's it. But as I mentioned, look at the euro. Holy smokes. Oh, wow. It's even pushed even higher. Look, remember on the euro, we got the sell signal. Remember, we even have this in the moving average here. We broke lower here, and this gave us the sell signal. And in our analysis, it's as long as we our resistance was 2073, and as long as we don't get, we could see a stretch up to, I believe it was 2091. And look at this. This thing's already gone up to 2101. A lot of this, you're thinking like, what the heck happened here? A lot of this has to do with what's happened with Bitcoin. And I'll get into that. I actually was long Bitcoin. I actually exited out in the Asian session. We've actually moved a little bit higher from where I exited out, but let's take a look at where we're at right now. And I'll tell you why it has a lot to do with why the dollar's demise overnight. Well, here we are. I did go on and share this in the. We talked about this yesterday. We were saying how the market had broken higher here and we fell back. And I said, well, as long as we can hold here, especially if we can push back up here, this will be good. Because, like I said, we talked about this yesterday. How we'd had this first run up here on the Elon tweets before, and then we fell back. And we were talking about how 34,800 was really key at the time. And we fell back in here, and you can see here we slid around here. And we started charging back up. And I said, boy, it's all about this 38,700. And you can see here where when the market rallied up here, it stopped dead in its tracks at 38,700. We fell all the way back, and we came back up to 38,700, fell back, and then we get this run up in here where we break into the weekend. And I'm like, wow. And I was thinking that they may be able to make it up here initially to 41,300. When we slid back, I remember sharing this. I think someone in the chat over the weekend said, I shared this. They said we've come back to support. At the time, I pointed this out that this was a dark cloud cover. If you look at it, you can see that it closes, it opens above and closes about 3/4 of the way lower. So that portended for us to go lower. And I said, okay, we're coming back to support. And we actually dipped below it and we kind of held and we slipped right back below it. Now, once we slip back below, I'm thinking, boy, this is not good. This can open the door for us to move lower. And I think yesterday when we came there, we're somewhere like around here. I'm like, well, as long as it can hold here, as we came into the U.S. session, I guess Elon Musk had already done his tweets or whatever, and we'd already bolted past here. And so we'd actually got past this 41,300. which actually opened the door for us to move higher. And as we closed the U.S. session, we were right here, and I said, "Wow, if we can close above this area, this is going to be huge," which we did. We closed above here, took out. You can see right here, we closed above this level, and let's go on and put this in as a resistance or a level. There we go. So I said, if we can close beyond this is huge. And we did. And I'm like, wow, this is going to be able to extend. And I said, it's going to be something else when we close above 45. So I was wondering if we were going to do it on this bar. We took off, and in Asia, we made this run. And I did go in and show this chart posted in there is that 161% of this move from here to here came in at 50,102 and 48,585. I don't know. I put 48,585 right there. That was and I put 45,85. Meant to put. I did say it was right, but hang on. There we go. There we go. Would be the 127% extension with 50,102 at the 161%. Once we got above here, you can see they kind of struggled with this area just above the 127% extension. I let go because my thought was we might get a little bit more run, but I think after about a day or two, we'll simply run out of gas. And I wasn't sure whether we'd make it here. And because we had such a phenomenal run, and we saw this the last time, we see how we got up here and we quickly fell back. I'm thinking, the last time I kind of kicked myself for not exiting in this because I was talking about how Bitcoin has traded just unbelievably technical. Was it reasonably hits these levels? You can see here, it quickly, look out here when we got above the 34,800. We dilly down here. We held it. You can see we rallied back. We held it when we broke lower. How we fell back to this 29,114. We visited. Look at this big old spike rally to 38,700. How well it's traded. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to make this same mistake I did the last time. I'm thinking that we will break my overall calls bin for 75K by the spring. And I thought if they did bust up above 50, I thought to myself they'd either get to like 52, 53. Or now saying yesterday, or 57. Maybe they'd get a little bit higher, but once again, it's already been such a phenomenal run here. I thought they might get a little bit higher, let's say into the European session, but I thought I'm not going to stick around because I already saw this comeback, and I made a mistake about not exiting because I could have exited there and bought, down here on this break back here. I'm not going to go on and make that mistake again. And especially after we ran back up here, we struggled at 37.8. We fell back, 38.7 fell back, and then we ramped to 41 and fell back again. So I said, if I want, I can always buy back. So I did go on and liquidate, but you can see here, we're struggling a little bit up in here. We did have almost like a little gravestone doji, but not really quite because we had a little bit of wick below. But you can see they closed just a hair above it, which opens the door for them to move a little bit higher, which they are. So here we stand. I think maybe after the next 24 hours, we may be able to go on and pair back. But the reason why I was saying that the dollar's under a lot of pressure is because now there's a lot of talk that maybe you could see some, not all, but a few, if not some, S&P companies actually, with the approval of the board members, start to move and park some of their assets, just a small amount, into Bitcoin. If that's the case, this thing could just go to the frickin' moon. The concern also is that twofold. They potentially could move into that. Also, they're losing. I won't say losing some faith, but the dollar's kind of losing a little bit of its edge right here, if you want to call it an edge, and that these companies may start to park some of their funds in Bitcoin, which is really going to work against the dollar. Hence why we're seeing this big old move in the dollar to the downside. Not huge, but we've turned around and we've gone to, let me see here, the NASDAQ kind of pairing off a little bit further. And speaking of the NASDAQ, you can see here why I kept emphasizing about trading these levels. We were trading here yesterday and we broke here and we got below that 13,643. The market came back to this 13, came back from this level, the 13,603. At the time I was saying that that was a support level. And this actually found some support from the prior Friday's point of control. We rallied back up and we're struggling. And then at the end of the day, that you had to cover your shorts and they just started rolling over people. So right now we've traded up to this 13,676 and we just back and forth. We did have a little bit of a gravestone doji here, a little bit. We've kind of edged back, but it's still for right now, bullish overall. Here's a euro. Actually, this is on the 6E on the futures, but you can see here that they've even popped beyond the point of the VWAP, and you can see here that they've done it on strong volume right here. That already told you that this market could go much further. I'm just keeping an eye. I started thinking, well, I might as well just go on and follow it here in the futures to get, and with the taking a look at it with using the VWAP with its same day or 2-day VWAP. But you can see we're pressing up here now. So let's go on and move back in to the main screen. And once again, now looking back at euro, now you can understand why that's happening. But wow, what a move, because right now this would invalidate, like I said, our analysis was, and we'll get to that, was our bias chart support resistance was 2073 with a stretch to, I think it's 2091. But like I said, we actually made it up to, what was it, 2103, but we need to get a close above 2073 to invalidate that, and that's going to be pretty huge. Let's go and move into the news and see where we stand. So the Aussie and New Zealand dollars boosted by data and market optimism. The Aussie and New Zealand dollars were trading higher against the greenback on Tuesday as improved market sentiment and optimistic economic surveys pushed the risk-sensitive currencies to multi-week highs. The Aussie was a third percent higher to 77.27 against the greenback. The National Australian Bank Index confidence doubled by 10 points, doubled to plus 10 points in January, even as conditions ease back from historic highs. So that's what I'm saying. It's just sometimes get frustrated with this news. So what was it yesterday? The Aussie was lower because, with the variance, we don't know how this is going to play out. Now all of a sudden it's all bullish because, the confidence is paying back. And that's fine if you say the report came out, but now all of a sudden we're, although it did mention curbed by the activities in a few cities, but were ultimately contained. Well, they were worried about it yesterday. I guess they feel like it's contained today, which is kind of silly. Across the Tasman, the Kiwi dollar traded to 72.53, its highest after finding support at 72.20. The Asian stock market rose on Tuesday after record-setting day on Wall Street. And both currencies today are reacting to a strong session overnight in U.S. equities, in oil and precious metals. And then the local data have really boosted by the Aussie and Kiwi, says Stephen Dooley. New Zealand inflation expectations for the year saw a large rise to 1.77% from 1.23%. Markets have acknowledged New Zealand's successful COVID management and ensuing economic recovery. And let's see here. And Bitcoin powers to a new high as Tesla takes it mainstream. Bitcoin extended gains on Tuesday to record high as the afterglow of Tesla's investment in the cryptocurrency had investors reckoning it could become a mainstream asset class. What we've talked about that is that a lot of you're seeing, and I think I referenced that yesterday too. I know at least in the chat, because someone was like, I'm like, this is huge, and I think was making that it's not as big of a deal as GameStop. GameStop's just a one hit wonder, or just a fire, like a firework in the sky. This has a lot more potential than something like GameStop. This is like I just told you. Hey, look, did GameStop ever do this to the dollar? Look at the euro. The euro's gone from pulling back to 50% on Thursday to look at that. We're rallying like bananas. You see what I'm saying? That was just like a pimple on a elephant's butt. This is huge because, as I mentioned, now there's talk of some S&P companies, a few, if not many more, actually putting some of their assets in Bitcoin. And why? Like I said, the dollars. It's kind of like a twofold thing. And now people thinking, not only would they park it there, they're thinking, well, that takes away from the dollar. It's almost like as if they're starting to shy away from the dollar. And maybe we can see that bigger move this year coming in much sooner. Bitcoin has more than doubled over the 2 months. And when I said many investment firms have taken stakes in in the Bitcoin, remember, Paul Tudor Jones got long euro in a big way at 13,000 or 13,500. Look where the heck it is right now. Look at that. 47,000 right now, 46.9. But anyway, Bitcoin has more than doubled over the last 2 months as institutional investors, that's what I've referenced before, search for alternative wealth stories, and retail traders ride the wave. Monday's leap after the Tesla's announcement was its largest daily rise in more than 3 years. It climbed to a peak of 48,216. Shares of a company that provided trading platforms for Bitcoin and technology to mine the cryptocurrency surged in China, South Korea, Australia, and big computer chip. Okay, and has GameStop ever done anything like that? Hence my point. Analysts figured Tesla's announcement that it bought 1.5 billion in Bitcoin, that it would take the cryptocurrency as payment for cars, is part of a larger shift as companies and investment houses follow small traders into assets. This is what I was referencing. While you can't buy a Tesla with Bitcoin, I wouldn't suggest doing so, said Michael Buchella, partner in crypto investment. We're in a position where these are earliest phases of a allocation to Bitcoin from institutional and corporate community. That's what I was just saying. Bitcoin is already up 62% this year, on top of a 300% rally last year. Central bankers and regulations, particularly in China, are also starting to embrace issuing digital currencies for everyday use. Remember, not only does the CME have Bitcoin futures, they just started Ethereum futures just a couple of days ago. Hence why I'm saying that it is such a big deal. Digital currencies, it seems, are clear to us, are going to be increasing as part of the financial architecture very broadly and potentially portfolio moving forward. That's what I'm saying. This is huge. It has a huge impact. Forex dollar retreats on U.S. recovery doubts, and Bitcoin's tops 47,000 for the first time. The dollar slumped to its lowest level in a week on Tuesday as investors, before entering doubts about the scale of a recent rally driven by expectations of a faster pandemic recovery in the United States than elsewhere. The spotlight remained on Bitcoin as it reached above 47,000, building on a 20% surge overnight, which says it's the biggest since 2017. That's why I dumped mine. I'm not having any qualms about dumping mine. It's still a little bit higher from where I dumped it. But like I said, really mine had to do more. I thought it could go higher, but I wasn't going to stick around because that's such a huge surge. That happened to me the last time for not taking it. Before I knew it really started to unravel. And that's a huge, I don't think we're going to turn around and fall all the way back or anything, but this thing could run some of its luster, and we could maybe be back down to around potentially, 39, maybe within a few days. I just didn't see any reason to not liquidate then. I liquidated around, I think it's around 46 something. But anyway, investors had pushed up the greenback thanks to a faster U.S. vaccine rollout relative to most other countries, and Democrats moved to fast-track Joe Biden's COVID package. The massive fiscal spending coupled with the ultra easy Federal Reserve policy dragging down the dollar in the longer term. The bottom line is this large stimulus is likely to pass soon, exacerbating the widening in the U.S. current account deficit and weighing on the dollar. The euro rose to 2077, up from the 2-month low of 1952. The pound renewed its highs to 37.84. Remember, I was talking about this getting to 37.96, which is that weekly wick. We'll see where it is. We've been as high as 37.86. Okay. Elsewhere, Tesla Bitcoin surged by saying its 2020 annual report on Monday that it bought 1.5 billion of the world's most popular currency as part of its broad investment policy. This is a turning point how we view digital currency, said Junichi Ishikawa. From here on, they'll be generally considered an asset available for selection by asset managers in the portfolio. Bitcoin traded at 46,400 after pushing to a new record high at 47,565. Rival virtual currency Ethereum changed hands at 1733. Riskier flat currencies also received a boost as rising stock markets buoyed sentiment. So, hence that, we'll move into the analysis. So, the euro traded within a tight range on Monday. No change in the bias chart levels. So the pair would need a rally above 2073 to negate, and that would be a closing close here, to negate the sell signal generated by the early last week. Intraday resistance can stretch up to 2089 with support at 2005. So we need this close. We would have to close above 2073 on the daily to negate this downside move. And right now it's looking pretty good. We'll see what happens. And we'll put an asterisk because it needs to close above it. And we said here the stretch was 2089. Okay. I'd actually seen last week it could get up to 91, but I thought, well, that might be a bit of a stretch. But look, we did make it above 2101. And then support remains the same, 2005. Onto cable. Cable closed slightly higher on Monday after a tight range. Levels remained the same. The pair appears destined to challenge the weekly wick at 37.93, which will be resistance. Support will be 36.41. So no changes here. Well, I guess we can move it to here, which would be, well, there's a 36.41, so that would still be the 41. So no changes there. The only thing is, well, from where it held, this level then would be 36.87. So we can move it to 36.87. Take a look at the Aussie dollar. Man, this Bitcoin has really spun things on their head to a certain extent. The Aussie extended Friday's gains on Monday. The pair, okay, so there was no changes, but I don't know why this didn't update. And my thought, and this is frustrating, this was my resistance. I remember that. So I'll just go, I don't know why I didn't update that. It really ticks me off. So this is resistance, which is going to be 77.63. I don't know why the hell it didn't save it. It really pisses me off. Do the analysis and it doesn't save it. And then support would be right there, this body, which would be 76.58. I don't remember about the downside, but I do remember that because I'm like, well, where can it go? And it is key that it got above 77.12, but I'm saying it was already starting to make that move. I'm thinking, well, where would it go? And I go, well, that's going to be resistance right there, that body. And if I remember correctly, I thought to myself, if it closes above this, that opens the door for the ghost to go higher. But once again, I don't know why I didn't save on this. Maybe it's in the basic technical. I'm just pulling this off this. Um, Moving on to the Kiwi. The Kiwi closed slightly higher on Monday. Levels remain the same. The pair resistance to start the week will be 72.34, with a daily close above that to generate new momentum to challenge recent highs. So 72.34 still, and we're actually above it. Holy smokes. So we are above that, but I'm sticking with that 72.34 because that gives us um, perspective. You know, I don't just moving it just for the sake of moving it. So we're above that 72.34, and you can see where that 72.34 comes in. Comes from this body right there. There. Actually, that's not 34. That's actually 38. But we'll stick with what we put on there. And but it's key that it's above this body. Got to close above that body. If it does, then that potentially drives us up to new highs now. Only difference would be that support now would come in at this body right there, which would be 71.78. And let's move on to the dollar CAD. Dollar CAD. The dollar CAD closed lower on Friday below key level of 27.65. This is frustrating because, see, I feel like cursing because it didn't save it. And I said, but there was no changes here. So it still falls back to the critical level, which is down here, which was 27.18. There it is, the 27.18. And resistance now would be this body, 27.79 right now. But I put on there that there was no changes, but I did notate that it closed. I think I said it stayed in a tight range or something like that, but I did the analysis. I don't know why it's not saving on this. This really pisses me off. It didn't save it either on here. I feel like issuing out a few expletives. But anyway, you can see here how it closed on Monday. It came back down here. Support now. Remember that support was 1996, which that's going to go and remain the same at 1996. And resistance, that would be the same here, 2019. So no changes there. Dollar yen. This thing's has really come apart. Now, remember with the dollar yen, let me see what I put in here. I know it was saying it was essentially the same, which was gone lower. See, it didn't even save it. I don't even know why I do it because it doesn't even save it. It really ticks me off. But I said that it was going to stay the same. The 550 66, but and also that the downside would remain the same, 492. But remember, we're seeing the dollar really get whacked here. And that's what's making the difference is that it's really, look at this. Oh my goodness. Oh, we're holding this above 2102. So this Bitcoin is really putting a heck of a shellacking on the dollar. and I had it still holding it didn't even look like it was going to get to it. 492. And look where we're at, how much we've fallen. So this is huge because it was against a very big reaction level. So we have to make a, calculation is how far can we go? Well, we're going to have to go with this wick here if they press it that far, which would be 459. And on the upside, now it would be, you see this wick here and this wick be right there, which for now is going to be, let's just call it 515. And I will say on this one, I had the 566 still staying there and the 492. It didn't even look like we were even going to get down to 492. But once again, I will update when you see something of significance. And the Bitcoin, that's causing a big, huge move. Like I said, look, your dollar resistance was 2073 because that's that key level. If we get a daily close, that would invalidate the move. A daily close of 2073, and this is huge right now. And our stretch was, I put 2089, but I remember seeing over the weekend, I was like, that's ridiculous to say we get that high. I had 20, I think it was 2091 or 2094. But I'm like, well, 2089 is kind of close. Okay, that because that sounds silly that we'd come all the way back. Well, we just did, but look, we've even pushed even higher. But it's Bitcoin because right now, and look, Bitcoin is starting to slide a little bit. Not a whole lot, but we are starting to lose. Well, we're at 46.7, and that was my concern, is that we might lose some of these gains, and it could be like a 2-day wonder. We come back because that's going to get a lot of people. I don't need to jump all over the place, but you see that kind of huge gain, you're going to see some people say, let me take some of it off the table. And I didn't want to be sitting there thinking, wow, I should have sold it. I made the mistake, which I did the last time. So anyway, let's go and move into the dollar index. This thing has really fallen apart. And I think it was 72 was my support. Let's see if this idiot thing saved it. Okay, it did. Dollar closed lower on Monday. A test lower to 90.72 is likely on Tuesday. Look, we've even blown past that. But that's what I'm saying is I'm going to have to update it because are we seeing something significant that's happened? Heck yeah. Because once again, with Bitcoin, it's flipping things around where people are saying, wow, they're selling the dollar because they're saying, well, some of these companies are just going to move their money into Bitcoin. So what do you think that's going to happen with the dollar? And so we're seeing this big move. So we're just going with the technical. So you see here, this body here kind of comes close to this body here. So that's what our initial run would be. So we'll go with this body right there that opened, and that would be right where we're at, 90.57. So that's what we'll be looking for support today, 90.57. I don't know why this thing updated. It was stuck. 90.57. And resistance would be that body you see here is intersecting it. That would be 91.03. This is huge. If the it's going to be big if the euro. Let's go back to the euro. If the euro closes above 20.73, let me move this over here. That's going to be big because this market was open to come back low. Okay, that's going to be big. If we close above we close above here, and you can see this, we've got this resistance. That's where resistance is right now, 21.06. We close above 21.06. This is going to be huge because we'll have turned around and reversed. We not only will have reversed this downside move, which is solid as a sell signal, we'll close above 20.73. We get above 21.06, and holy smokes, man, that is going to go from this being big because now everybody that put those shorts on, and they were good shorts, have all gotten, they're going to get knocked out. But then if you close above 2106, wow, then that opens the door for this thing to go move higher. The first stop would be, doesn't sound like much, immediately would be right there at 2169, but really portends a move to this challenge of 2223. Holy smokes. Let's go and move into the cross rates. No changes here in the Kiwi yen. We talked about it getting to this weekly level up in here. So no changes. 76.31, 75.29. Let's move to the euro pound. Oh, we're kind of holding our own here. You see here. So no changes here in the euro pound. Not these big moves like we're seeing across the majors. No changes here in the euro outlook. Dip down here, but we're holding our own here. We'll go back to what the notation was. The euro odd finished the prior week falling back to the support area here, 56.90, a daily close below 56.23. You see, we've made a dip down here, but we'd have to get the close below that in order to exacerbate or bring on a wave of selling. So no changes here. Moving on to the euro kiwi. Same here, no changes. We're holding on. We're quiet overall. Yesterday wasn't, if you look in here, it wasn't a tiny range, but we haven't broken to new levels or anything. So we're holding our own here. And move on to the Aussie dollar. No changes here in the Aussie dollar. We did break up in here, but there's no changes here in the Aussie yen. 81.28. We've been as high yesterday as high as 81.17. No changes. Just kind of holding up in here. On to the guppy. No changes. Look at that. We're just, look at yesterday's range. Fairly quiet, especially for the guppy. And lastly, sterling odd. We just came down here to this 78.25. This one we would go on an update. We did go on and take a dip down here to 78.25. That's going to be support. And on the upside, we're going to go with this body right there. Right there, this high. That body would be 78.70. We're just tightening it up quite a bit for today. And that's going to be it. If you look across the board, you can see here that overall, a lot of these Fangman stocks are they're not going anywhere, you see? And I think Irene was asking me yesterday about, I think Amazon looked a bit weaker. And I'm like, I'm not even paying that much attention to Fangman, only from a general standpoint. And I was following this real good technician. I watched a video this weekend, but they were talking about just NASDAQ in general. And the gentleman was saying, well, be careful with NASDAQ because, Fangman, it's not going anywhere. It hasn't been doing anything. And that's what I've been saying is that it hasn't gone anywhere. And I noted in the chat room, if you look at it over the past, really over a month, with the exception of some earnings moves, and I'm not saying that Apple didn't rally, it did, but a lot of these have not gone anywhere. We saw Apple already. We already see Microsoft. Microsoft has been good. It's been steady for good reasons. It's gone higher. But once again, here's Amazon. Google overall has held up. I got to give its own props there. But you look at NVIDIA, this thing's stuck here. It's not going anywhere. A little bit on the upper side from yesterday. Look at Facebook, dead as a freaking doornail. Netflix, you see how they're not going anywhere? Now, we're not going anywhere, but look at the NASDAQ. It just keeps on making new highs. That's what I'm saying. It's not a good indicator. Intel, a little bit stronger, but nothing like out of the ordinary. Tesla remains real strong up in here. Here's Peloton. Now, as far as the pandemic plays, it's still holding pretty steady. PayPal. Wow, look at PayPal. Holy smokes. See, that's what I'm saying. The pandemic plays are the ones that are doing something. Here's eBay, still fairly strong up in here. But when you look at the Fang Man, there for a while there, I thought I hit the jackpot, using that Fang Man to try and NQ, considering that the weighting that Fang Man has, but it's not making any difference. The only thing is I noted is you're just that would infer that the rally is broadening out. And hence, like I said, when we look here, look at eBay. Wow. Look at PayPal. Sheesh. But let's go on in before we leave. We'll take a look at Bitcoin. And you can see where we're at now. You can see here. So if we right there's that close kind of coming back in. And that's my concern because this is a huge rally. We took off from 39 to essentially, you can almost say from this breakout right here, we rallied almost $10,000. Do you not think some people are going to say, wow, I'll take some profits? And my concern is if you're looking for where we could go, that would be right here, just under 44,000. But my concern is that, and I wasn't going to stick around and wait, although maybe I would have made a little bit more. I thought it was too much to ask this quickly for to take 50,000 out. And that was my concern. I thought if we hit there in Asia, definitely I want to get out. But it was already kind of run out of gas. I'm thinking, I'm not about to let this thing that much. People are going to go and take the profits. And we've seen that on these good, solid moves, they quickly take the profits. We saw that here even, when, and that's what's talking about this trading so well technically. When we saw this over the weekend, this dark cloud cover. And look how well it trades technically. It trades like the old-fashioned technical ways where everything was clean. You know what I mean? None of this fake out stuff. So look at that. From 41,000 all the way down here to 38,000. So, and this is 2-hour bars. So it lost 3,000. Now that doesn't sound like a big of a deal from here, but 3,000 from 41,000, 38,000 in just a few 2-hour bars. Holy smokes. So that's the same. When this thing took off like that, I thought, okay, well, it's not going to stop here, but it's going to be huge if we can close back above here. We did, and boy, did we launch. And so at this point, potentially we could fall back to just under 44. This would be key right here, this area. But my concern is, like I said, that maybe after a couple of days, people take profits and potentially we could come back down to 41.3. Right there is probably where you might start to see some buying. But once again, I think after we could be looking at ourselves. I don't know for sure, but next we could be talking about, wow, there was that big Elon Musk flurry, but it's kind of dissipated. Well, at least we know that from a longer term base, it'll be moving much higher. But we might be saying that when we're trading down in here, and that's going to be a concern. So I'm happy to get out of it. With that, we'll go on and bow on out. And thanks for joining us here in the European Crossover webinar.